to the JeffsCast, the show where we speak our mind. I'm Lewis Appleton. I'm your host. And I'm here with Mr. Calum Golding.
Hello, man. How are we?
We are well. I hope you are too.
Indeed.
First, Calum, you are the second guest on the show.
Indeed, I
am.
am.
I'm calling the first time.
It's fine.
Luke has stolen that.
I'll take the sloppy seconds. I'm all about that life.
Well, I mean, it's still
fresh. It was only the second one.
Yeah. So, what do you do?
Right, so I am in the engineering industry, specifically precision engineering. What me and many unfortunate souls that work in my place do is we make tools on the lines of boring bars, drills, milling tools, lathe tools. So we make tools that allow people to, make their own stuff. Like, I brought many examples, and Lewis will put them all on camera. But we've got things here that are used to grind away gearing metal, which gearing metals.
That's number one.
Yes, that'll be. Which one are you? It's missing the tip on it because I #broke it. But where gearing metal is a lot harder than standard metals. Obviously, you need very specific and very tough materials to cut it. And obviously, you can't just jam a standard sort of drill or a bit into it. It will just completely shatter the tip. And we use two main materials, which is CBN or PCBN if you want to be really technical, and PCD. PCBN is polycubic boron nitrate, which is the second hardest material known to man, and is only followed by PCD, which is polycrystalline diamond, which is it's literally diamond, just man-made. It's got the exact same crystalline structure. It is just man-made.
It's not rare.
It's machining grade, so it doesn't look fancy or stuff. It's got I'd say you can have a little bit. It's shiny and all the things like that. It's just got the dark tone to it underneath, but you can tell obviously it's got dirty finger marks on it. But it's very shiny.
It's almost like glass.
In a way it is. It does have that weird reflective look to it. But as you can also see, it's also strapped to a bit underneath, the amberite as it's called. But you can see it's just the material that it comes on, so you can chamfer it the side away and allow it to sit in the pockets or the grooves very well. But so you can see the diamond itself is very, very thin, but I challenge you to try and snap that in your fingers, because if you could, you are abnormally strong and you basically become the new god. If you can snap that, I'd be so impressed.
Well, what we've gone straight into engineering, deep into it. But first, we need to know you. What do you enjoy doing? What would you say your hobbies are?
I've had a lot of hobbies over the time. I've done things from gymnastics to swimming to rugby. I sort of became an adrenaline junkie, so I follow into things like I said. I've done skydiving. I've flown a plane.
What is skydiving like?
Oh man, there's as the instructors put it, no matter how much you can hype yourself up for, the first 2 seconds at the plane, you're screaming like a 4-year-old girl. It's unreal. It's
just something that you can't quite.
There's no way to do it. But all I remember is because Luke was there as well, and I remember when we came down, we were just sat there. We're all shaking again. As you've just seen, like a 4-year-old that's just gone and watched the first film they've seen. It was like pretty lights and all that, and they're just like, oh my god,
absolutely.
They're just so overwhelmed.
Buzzing.
It's an adrenaline feeling that there's no way to you cannot replicate that. It's
something that
you've got to do it. Even if you've got a fear of heights, you got to do it.
I mean, even people with a fear of heights, you shouldn't be too worried about that, because it's not even high. It's just, it is high, but it's so high that it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
You're dead.
You ain't gonna know about it. No, there's so many safety measures with it, to be fair. Obviously you got your primary and reserve parachute, but there's there's a little clock on the back of it, which is an altitude meter, and if you hit 2,000 meters, it will automatically deploy your chute. So even if you've both passed out, you and your instructor, it will deploy.
Because you have to go with an instructor.
So until you get your full license, you can do that. But I'd love to get my full skydiving instructor's license.
My a co-worker, Connor Jenkins, if you're watching, he was adamant to try and get a skydiving license. I don't know if he has yet, but he was absolutely adamant. He loved it to bits. I mean, what procedures would you have to go through to actually get the license?
Well, I know when we went, they were actually like looking at hiring some people. I know you start as like a parachute packer and that. You get like all the boring bits out of the way, and then you sort of take like, I guess almost like an apprenticeship, how you would and I will in engineering. Like you sort of do a 1 day a week thing where I imagine you sit with instructors. They sort of teach you the procedures, how to handle people, how to throw yourself out the plane properly, maneuvering the parachutes. And then obviously you have to get, I think it's like a ridiculous amount of hours and jumps in before they even consider giving you your license. You've literally got to throw yourself out of a plane like 1,000 times or something like that.
So it's quite a difficult thing to get there.
Yeah, in the sense of, because obviously you're throwing yourself out of a perfectly functional aircraft.
Yeah,
like
it's a bit of a weird thing.
That's it. You've got to make sure you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I say the guy I jumped with, he did like, I think he's done like 2,500 jumps. He spent like a couple thousand hours in the air, something like that. And he says like every single time it feels like the first time, because the adrenaline doesn't go away. He used to say he's done endless jumps and he still feels like it's the first one every time.
That is so cool. What? How long does the experience normally last?
Well, in the UK, you can jump up to 15,000 feet from tandem. When we went, did 10,000 because it was the first time. We just thought, well, we'll get a taster for it. And you spend a total of, I think it was about 30 seconds in free fall.
Okay, before the parachute.
Yeah, before your parachute deploys, which it doesn't seem like a lot, and it doesn't, but obviously you still get loads of fun on the parachute ride down. Yeah. But it's the 30 seconds you're screaming the whole way down. Yeah. You can't hear yourself. You can't, like, it's one of those things you think you'd be able to hear yourself screaming at the top of your lungs like a girl, but you really can't, because you're falling 180 miles an hour, something like terminal velocity. You cannot hear a thing, and you're sat there just crying your eyes out because the wind's just blowing your face off, and it's great.
Terminal velocity, if you didn't know, is the maximum speed a object can reach before it's stopped, before you reach equilibrium between your kinetic energy. Watch the chair. Between the kinetic energy and the air resistance. Fact,
kiddos.
Skydiving, incredible. I do want to try it.
Salisbury's a good place to go. That's where we did it.
Never got around to it.
It's only like 200 quid as well for the first jump, which but you think like
I suppose you're
hiring you're hiring an airplane parachute, like, which is an expensive piece of equipment itself. Obviously the jumpsuit, it's like incorporating in all the like paying of the hours of people working there, so it's quite cheap for a good little bundle. And say when we went, they give you a crap load of vouchers which basically make it cheaper for the next few times you go. So it's
an incentive to keep
it makes it a lot cheaper than the first time, so it's sort of one of those things. It's like, it's more expensive on the first one, but then you can get it cheaper and go for like the 15,000, which is what I imagine me and Luke will do eventually when we get back to it.
I can imagine that was fucking
I'm so hyped. I can't wait. It's one of those things that I'm forever addicted after one go. Forever hooked.
Just instant bam. So places you've worked, have you got any interesting stories?
I've jumped around a few because I came out of college with the level 2 in mechanics and had no desire to pursue it whatsoever. Because
like car mechanics?
Yeah, like genuine go in and fix up cars. But what I was taught when I was growing up, or what I perceived as mechanics, was no longer a thing by the time I got to learn. What my dad always used to talk to me about was when he had like his Ford Capris or the old Escorts. Like if your car broke down on the motorway, you had your tools in the back, you'd sit there for an hour and you'd fix it. Like your alternator's broken, you rip it apart, fix the diodes and put it back together.
The problem is, I mean, today's cars, like especially the ones after 2010, especially, it's all electronics. There's no fucking car there.
And what there is all sealed units now. It's made out of cheaper materials and they seal it so they can make more money out of it, because that's
so you have to go to a registered dealer.
That's exactly what will happen. You'll have one of two outcomes. You'll either sit there and go, all right, the part is fucked, throw it away and order in a new one, or you send it off to the company and they'll unseal it themselves. Because I remember we were looking on an alternator and it basically has like it almost looked like a weld around it, but it wasn't welded as such. Like, it was just their cheeky way of going, you can't get into it. So you send it off to them, pay them a crap load of money to do it for you, and it was just like, it's no fun. And even my mechanics teacher said, like, as how much as I hate to say it, like, we're training you to be fitters, not mechanics anymore. You're just technicians. You're
taking stuff out, putting stuff back in.
Like even in my level 2, which wasn't even going into full diagnostics, they started teaching us like how to read diagnostics on a computer, like for MOTs, for example, like emissions levels. And it was just like, since when did it become like playing a computer game to fix a car? It's like, Jesus.
Well, I remember when I was working for Southwest Trains, especially the older trains, the 455s, they were built in 1980s, so they were just chock full of fucking raw electrics. It's just, you know, if you wanted a timer circuit, it would be a resistor and a capacitor, not a fucking PCB. You know, the only PCBs were one that were handmade with little, you know, perfectly, you know, done resistors, capacitors and whatnot. And the motors, the way the motors worked is, instead, you know, now you'll have a 3-phase motor with a power controller, and that would just create a pulse width modulation signal in, you know, 3-phase. But the old way of doing it was having a big fucking huge bank of resistors and then chopping out resistance using a big camshaft with mechanically driven by oil, well, not mechanically, pneumatically driven. That's air, isn't it?
Yeah, you're thinking hydraulically?
Hydraulically, yeah. So it's hydraulically driven with big old contacts switching out the resistance. And I mean, it's a shit, inefficient, disgusting way of doing it, but oh my god, it was fun to work.
That was it. That was the thing. So I remember we had like this old
electronics.
Yeah, we had like the old cars. What was it? It's
like
gonna
my
know, I can't remember.
I had fun working on that.
That was it.
Simple.
Yeah, it was an older Polo that came in. It was like, because like our college had a deal with Silver Lake. Like they had a bunch of cars come in, and we just got to destroy them for a year, and then we sent them back. And they sent in this old, I think it was a Polo, like one of the older Mark II, maybe Mark III ones. Mate, they never got that car back because our college literally refused to give it back, because it was like, nope, thank you.
Yeah,
keeping it because it was too good. Like we had destroyed the car; it would never run again. But we could constantly take it apart, break it ourselves to fix it.
Yeah, and it's just such a good tool to use as well, a tool for learning.
That's it.
I mean, we had when we were doing because I went to CMAST. And really good college, really good college. Very good teachers as well. One of them was I won't mention the name. I think you know who you are. But you know, we always had actual things to work on, and when we, you know, instead of just designing a circuit on multisim or on the simulation program, we made the circuit as well, and that's so important to actually be hands on and make it rather than just simulate stuff all the time. It's tedious, it's boring.
Yeah, we did the same with making brake pipe clamps in thingy. It was like the only real sort of, like, I guess the first dabble into more precision engineering. Got to use bandsaws, pillar drills, things like that, which as a mechanic you're not really going to need to do too much, but it was nice to actually get a feel of how it's made and what it did, and you got to understand why it did what it did because you built it from the scratch. Exactly.
You've got that raw understanding of how it works just by seeing it, especially like rebuilding engines and stuff like that. You know, just I haven't personally, but I've seen YouTube videos, classic fucking example. But you know, I've seen YouTube videos of it done, and I haven't rebuilt an engine, but I've rebuilt computers and I've rebuilt fucking, you know, bits of electronics, and it's equally as fun. It's just good to tear something apart and rebuild it. It's such a good way of learning, because I have to do it to learn. You know, I can't just sit in a classroom and have shit thrown at me all day. I have to actually, you know, I'm a kinetic learner, so you know, physically I have to do shit, and I just don't understand how people can just sit there and
just like just write it down, like, cool, I know it now. I'm the same. I'm kinesthetic the whole way. I mean, with a bit of auditory, but it's because I kind of need to hear to know what the fuck's going on.
Absolutely. Right. I think we're going to take a break. I need to go get a drink. We'll see you in a second.
Boy.
Hello and welcome back to the JeffsCast. What were we talking about? I can't remember.
Life and all the mystery of the world.
Oh, life, yeah. Right. Let's move on. Oh, we were talking about what you were doing. So you've your jobs.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I'll say I do precision engineering and make many different kinds of tools, and say there's a big old scheme of like figuring out the specifics of what it means. Like, and say I brought a box in from some of the jobs that are never going to get done because our place is lazy as hell, and it's got this lovely piece of bull crap on it that is just a bunch of letters and numbers that looks to be absolutely nothing. For example,
actually not mean anything.
It means everything. To be fair, we got TPKN 1603 PPR CE DR50. Which is a complete mouthful and sounds like utter gibberish. But say for each thing, so like the T here is the actual insert shape, and then you got the P, which is like the chip breaker edge, I think, and then you got like K, which is like the fixed point or something. I took a picture of the diagram at work because I haven't been there the hugest amount of time. I'll send it all to you and good stuff.
Yeah.
But if I just pull it up here real quick.
Yeah.
So we've got the T, obviously, for this is the triangular shape. And then, the second one, P, is the major cutting edge and the clearance angle of it. Okay. Obviously, so you can sort of guess what I'm saying with that. It's the amount of degrees that are left between the main cutting edge and where the swarf can, in theory, fly away. There are other measures you can do to reduce swarf buildup inside the tools. Then you got the M, which is the tolerance of the tool, which is sort of like the main micron difference that you can sort of have between...
Micron?
Yeah, we work in microns.
Talking tiny.
Yeah, we work in very, very precise measurements.
It's very precise.
And so the G is the chip breaker angle. Sorry, it's G on there, but the N is the chip breaker angle, which on this one it's sort of like a reverse trapezium.
Okay, all right, so that's the...
the chip breaker, as I say, it's got loads of weird definitions and blah blah blah. It all makes sense, like when you do
but
the appropriate training.
With that kind of stuff, you always get the slang that goes with it.
There's that as well.
Yeah,
and then you start getting into the numbers. Like here, you got 1603. So for the first two set of numbers, because each set of the numbers are in pairs, so you got the 16 then the 03. So like for here we got the 16, that will be the thickness of it. So I know these ones are very specific ones, so they're not actually on here, but obviously it's a 16, but they go into like, if it was an 01, it's a 1.59 mil thickness actual base insert. Then you got the radius of the actual sharp point, or the actual tip that does the cutting, milling, grinding, whatever it is. So you got the radius of that. Then you got the shape of it, so the actual cutting edge condition. You can have it. It doesn't change a whole lot. It's just sort of like on the finer things, so you can I guess adjust it if you're cutting a slightly harder or denser material. Also, it allows you, so when you're like designing it, you can, if it's on a mill, you can get a different cutting edge condition for different milling speeds. So you don't completely annihilate the tool or the surface material that you're trying to mill away. So we've done cutting edge, and then we've got the feed direction, because obviously you can have things going on counterclockwise, things like that. It can come in from the top and spin down, and you basically just then build the tool around that. So these ones here obviously got TPKN, but things like this one here, it's not actually got its insert on there, but this is that one I'm referring to, that is a CNMA, and that will be like a standard, it'll be like an 110403 CE DR50. The CE stands for cheap edge, which comes down to the actual base inserts design. When we get these in, we get them coming in two forms. We'll have them like this, and we tip seat them ourselves. I'll explain that in a minute. Or we have them wired out. I'll also get to that in a moment. But when the inserts come in, they come in three, which it doesn't have it on here, but the writing will come in either red, green, or black. Black means that both ends are of equal like size, so there's not one's thinner. If it's red, it means one edge is a lot thinner, is a cheap edge, because it's prone to chipping where it's thinner, and then one end's slightly thicker. And then the green is both are thinned.
So, and they would have different uses.
Yeah, so a cheap edge one is, what you'll normally do is you'll tip seat out the cheap edge on it, because that's the side more, how do you explain it? It's where it's thinner, it'll allow the tip to sit on a lot better, and it will sit in a lot a lot better. But obviously, if you get things like the ones where they are thinner on both ends, you can have it so it is a double-ended tool, so it'll have a tip on either end. Or, and say you get I think there's a special kind of the red ones, which are tips on either end on one side, so you can have, it's literally like two tips on this side, two here, or you can have four on each side if you really want to go crazy. But don't get too many of them, because they're very, very expensive. A lot of these tools cost ridiculous amounts.
I can imagine they're very precise. And What would you use these tools for?
To be honest, there's some of them are really overkill. Like the CNMNA, the one I passed you. That one. They're actually used for cutting into plastic.
Oh, right.
Which, you would imagine for like a big diamond tool. Why?
Yeah, but I suppose you...
But you got a diamond tool, it'll last a long time. You can put it for a crap load of abuse. You can put that thing at real high, cutting
cut
speeds.
It quicker.
Yeah, you can ram it through. And obviously diamond itself, it has got a good heat resistance. It doesn't melt too quickly, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
So you can absolutely spin this thing at 1,000,000 miles an hour,
and
revolutions.
You get a cleaner cut on.
Yeah, you can get a real smooth finish. Like say here, I got an actual milling tool out of the CBN,
right.
Which, as you can tell the difference. Well, I'll show you. You can see, but the camera won't be able to. It's not quite as shiny on it.
Photograph.
Yeah, say it's not quite as shiny as the diamond.
And it's chipped as well.
Yeah, but I've brought all the chipped ones in. Yeah, because they'll get repaired later on.
Yeah.
And so there's two ways it goes about. Obviously, we can tip seat them ourselves using a surface grinder.
Yeah.
Basically, put it in a vise, get some plate holders, wind it in, glue it all together. Let's say we set the depth at 3.18 mil, we'll say 1 mil just to be easier. So we set it 1 mil down, and it'll have a tolerance of 10 microns, and depending on the insert, what kind of tip you're using, it will go to things in something, we'll say 66 thou, because we do it in thou as well as mils. Thousandths of an inch. Like we do it in, we use mix of imperial and metric together. Yeah. Our place is very, very old school. We run as if we're like 40 years ago.
Thou is 1,000 of an inch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason we can't seem to update. But then again, we run our place like it was 40 years ago because all the machines are like 40 years old. Yeah. They dwarf us in age.
Yeah.
But
they still work.
Yeah. Our boss has a mentality of fix it until it can't be fixed anymore, then fix it again anyway.
Well, that's the way it should be. I mean, well, to the point. Not to the point where it's dangerous, but
we don't know if he's crossing that threshold yet. But we're just waiting for one of the machines to explode on us.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Yeah, but I suppose you want to get all the use out of it. You want to get as much use out of it as possible. You don't want to be throwing away stuff that you don't need to be throwing away. Yep. It's wasted.
And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Why I didn't like mechanics. Well, all the machines are 40 years old. When they break, off come the panels, and there's half of us having a fucking field day ripping this thing apart and fixing it. And that's what we like about having these old machines, is
because they're fixable.
They are actually fixable.
They're made to be fixable. They're actually repairable, and they're built to be serviced.
Yep, and where obviously the parts that it was using 40 years ago are nowhere near as precise now. Every time we repair it, in theory, it gets a little bit better because it's got a fresher part that's scaled to the old design. I guess.
Like a retrofit.
Yeah. It makes the machines a lot better to an extent, but they're on their way out. Some of them are going to cut one of our hands off one day, but after we've done that one day, hopefully it'll be me. I can get a foul paycheck.
Well, I mean, losing a hand, it's
worth it.
Traumatic experience, just a bit.
Nah, mate, it's all about the money. No, but so there's lots of processes that goes into it. Obviously, we can, as I say, I'll come back to wiring, but when it's been tip-seated, we'll take over to a brazing machine. You'll probably know what a radon is. It's an induction heater. The good old coils, how it works. And I brought this one in because it's been de-tipped, but you can see on there's this little golden material. It's called brazing. It literally looks almost like brass.
Almost like soldering, isn't it?
It is. It's a very similar thing. It's like doing a weld, but without actually having to melt the two materials together. You mix that in with a material called flux. It just allows the metal to travel when it's been heated, because it has a low-ish heating temperature, but you say that you're still heating them up to red hot degrees, but it allows you to sit there, move the tip into position, press down. Obviously you take the heat off and it'll like glue, it'll just dry it in place very quickly. But where it's metal, it fuses very strong. It
actually almost breaks down the bond.
It forms a very, very strong layer that, and say, if you don't put enough of it on, the chips will fly away, no problem. But if you put it on there, you got a better chance of like completely wrecking the rest of the tool than actually managing to separate those two bits.
Because it's almost become one, hasn't it? When you do that kind of thing to it, it's not just gluing it together. It's actually physically changing the molecular structure of the metal.
And say we do it with, because we do occasional steel work, and like it's not really my department, but we got a guy that does occasional steel work, but he will temper the material. So obviously he'll sit there, he'll heat it up, and then rapidly cool it in some water or oil, depending how he wants to do it.
That changes the structure.
Yeah,
as well,
it allows the. I can't remember specifically with tempering, but I know it I think it condenses the bonds together. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
What it does, when you cool it down rapidly, instead of when it cools down slowly, it cools into a very obvious structure. But when you rapidly cool it, it doesn't give it time to organise into a normal structure, into a lattice structure. So it's in a very random structure, which
almost like an alloy.
Yeah, which makes it hard but brittle.
Yeah.
So it changes the properties of the material, because you're not allowing the actual individual atoms time to arrange themselves into
how they would
structure.
like to.
Yeah, they're trying to, but you're forcing it too quite. It's quenching. Quenching, yeah.
And so it's like, to be fair, once you've even done the brazing, you would think that's it done, like it's all put together. There's so much more to it at this point. Obviously, we'll take it around to a sandblast to get all the gunk and crap off. Obviously, where you're heating it very quickly, it does like flake off the outer layers of the metal. Oh yeah, I'd say it's also tungsten carbide. This is what it's made of.
So tungsten carbide is
it's an alloy. Obviously, it's got tungsten, which is a very dense metal in itself, and then you've thrown in the carbide just to give it an alloy structure, just deforming the normal flat level, so it allows it to resist a lot more.
Okay.
A lot more wear and tear and shock, I guess.
Okay, so just general,
it's a very, very hard material in itself. Like I say, me and David, we've had many attempts at trying to smash rods of carbide, and
it just doesn't happen.
Like, I think you could do better chance of smashing a car up with that rod of carbide than actually like running it over with a car. The car would take more damage.
So tungsten carbide, it's an alloy. So when you're working with these things, because you're working with obviously the second hardest material and the hardest material, how do you cut the hardest material?
We work with we get all of our machines from a company called Coborn. They've got many different things, like you've probably seen like CNC mills and things like that. Yeah. We've got a couple of those sat around. We've got standard mills, CNC mills, we've got lathes and things like that. And we got like angle and surface grinders, ones that are programmable as well. So we stick on a hard ass wheel as much as we can. Excuse me. Where obviously the diamond will wear away at the wheel very quickly, but where you're spinning it at such a high velocity, it just chips it away and like grinds it to a very smooth condition.
So you're using industrial diamond to break and to cut
and we have diamond dust literally in the boxes, and we dress our wheel in it every time, so in itself it's already being cut with its own material. So it doesn't wear the wheel away quite so quickly,
but it does
at the same time. You've got to constantly recalibrate and adjust the machines for the wheel wear, which if you're not paying attention because you're a lazy fuck like me, well, I'm not lazy, I just sort of forget a lot.
But it's easily done. I mean, when you're working on something like that, it can, you can come into a loop, and you end up, you can lose concentration.
And so then once it's gone through the whole brazing, sandblasting thing, we what we do is called topping, which is obviously to make the tip less likely to break. What we do is we literally get a cylindrical grinder, but from the top, and literally flatten it, so this material is now on the same plane as this. We do that we try to get it within 5 to 10 microns, so it's ridiculously flat, and obviously it allows it makes it looks like done very pristinely as well. There's no gaps or anything. We also do the same on the side conditioning. We grind off the excess material here, say the same way as we were saying earlier, just using the wheels, and that's all done by the people that work on the Coborn machines. They sit there, they've got all the programs in, they load them in, it just runs around it, the arms move it around, it just takes all the corners off. It generally makes the tool look a lot more pristine. Yeah,
nice and clean, well finished, and just pucker.
Yeah, and so there's many things that can be done though. So there's also, like I say, there's side conditioning, edge conditioning, we got topping, and then it goes around through to final inspection. But it's one of those things that there are probably about 7 or 8 different like insert things, and there's like there's 20 or 30 different kinds of tips, but there's so many variations that you can do to it, like just one quick little thing and it completely changes how the tool works. So I got plenty of photos I'll send to you, or we'll
put up the photographs,
the necessary ones in time.
Well, you'll obviously see it through it.
So there's one thing that I recently started doing is putting back chamfers on the V's, which say this is a V insert. It's a back chamfer. It's a simple anti-swarf build-up technique, which if I was to show you here on where you can see it's being cut down on the angle, it's a very 90-degree angle on the top. Back chamfer is if you would put that in a vise at a 45-degree angle and take that 90-degree edge off, so it has a little break a bit. So when so
it's just tiny,
so as it's drilling in, so as it's drilling in, instead of the material sort of getting stuck on that 90-degree thing where it's a 45, it allows it to bounce off. So there's many things like that, and obviously, with things like that, it's a simple thing, but it allows the tool to be a lot more versatile, because it means it can be put under a lot more constant drilling or boring or whatever it's going to be doing without needing to have someone pull out and get all the crap out of it. Because obviously, as you will know, with like pillar drilling, like as you do it, you get the big swarf.
All depends on the speed that you cut and
things like that.
Tools you're using,
but say with a back chamfer on, it just allows the tool to keep going without it ends up getting in the way, and it's just like starts playing havoc with the tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many uses for these tools that I've seen. Like we've got them in such different sizes. Obviously, I've shown you got like these big little ones here, and we've got them down to tiny little ones like that, which aren't even as big as your pinky finger, the top half of your pinky finger.
I'll do a picture for a comparison next to my finger. But
I mean, they are absolutely tiny tools, and an absolute bastard to braze. I'd say they're horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine, very fiddly.
Not even just because of how small it is, because where they're so small, the heat escapes very quickly, so the brazing dries very quickly. So you've literally got like 2 seconds to move it into position. But there's so many variations you can do on brazing as well. As I said, you got the cheap edge ones, you got double enders, either enders. Sorry, double enders are 2 on one end, either enders, and you got triple enders for like the more triangle looking ones like this. It's just one of these things that I never knew I necessarily wanted to be an engineer as such, but then as my friend David got me into the job, as he explained it was just something that was like there was so many different ways to make something that was nearly the same, and it just made it so different.
It just makes it so much less tedious and so much less fucking boring. I mean,
it was the job I was looking for, because you can walk in, you learn the basics of what that means, and you can sit there, and if you don't care, you can do your job and you can get along with it fine. Or you can sit there and learn a bit more in depth about what each of these tools do, and then it's as we were saying earlier, it gives you an understanding of how it works better, and you genuinely know why you're doing what you're doing. It's just one of those things that I'm going to be taking an apprenticeship starting, in like 2 weeks. God help my soul. Jeez, I have to go back to learning. But I was starting an apprenticeship back at Eastleigh, and then...
what are you doing?
It's got a fancy name. It's like Improved Operational Performance in Engineering. It's basically just going to teach me how to use lathes, mills properly, because I haven't had an official day of training in my life.
Right, so the official training.
Yeah, and then all the theoretical side, like learning all the Pythagoras theorem, trigonometry, all the crap that's going to go behind why I need to do a 45-degree angle instead of a 47.
You need to learn it, mate. You need to learn it. I mean,
instead of why I need to put a 5-degree incline on the tip instead of a negative. There's so many little nifty variations that I'm going to have to account for in my job.
Yeah, because you've got the 2 pillars of engineering. You've got the theory and you've got the practical. You have to have both.
You cannot...
One cannot exist without the other. It's just,
can't be a cheapskate about it.
Well, I mean, you have to learn... I mean, I found theory relatively boring compared to the practical, but you still got to learn it.
That's it. It's needed, because otherwise, you sat there, you're just beating like your hammer against something, and you don't know why you're doing it. So you're not going to know if you've beat it too hard or not. Or
exactly.
You need to know
the reasoning behind it. Yeah,
it's good stuff. Engineering, I think, is one of those jobs that a lot of people don't think they're going to like it, and I think that they've really just got to actually sit there and build something one day. Like, even if like you want to go really basic about it, like get some Meccano or Lego, if you just sit there for like an hour or two and just build
something, just use your creative instincts,
just sit there and be like, right, I want to see if I can make a Land Rover or something like that. Just anything, like whatever you like, just try and build it.
Absolutely.
And you'll sit there and go, holy crap, that wasn't actually that bad.
Go out there and build something amazing.
Follow your dreams, build cars.
No, seriously, just, I mean, I personally do soldering as a hobby. I solder up in my room, and it's a fucking shithole, but I've made a few things. I've made cool little things. I made lights. I made little gadgets, and they're shit, but it's shit that I've made, you know? It's shit that I've produced. So it's a very rewarding feeling, especially as when I've repaired a few things. You know, the other day I repaired a friend's power supply for his Xbox, and it worked, and he was chuffed. I was chuffed. I felt fucking amazing, you know? I'd fixed that. I've used my knowledge and my creative instinct to fix something, and it's just such an incredible feeling, you know?
This is what I like about engineering. It gives you a sense of satisfaction, because I'd say I'm in a company of very few companies that actually make these kinds of tools, especially with like the diamond tips themselves. So it's a very bespoke job, and I never knew that when I walked in there, because there's like 10 guys on the workshop floor that it looks like an old place where no one really gives a fuck, but then you sort of sit down and you go, holy shit, I'm a diamond tool maker. I make diamond drills, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, man, let's think of really cool engineering now. Like, I'm a precision diamond engineering.
I am a precision diamond tool maker.
Yeah, man, that's a fucking dope.
That's what I mean. Like, if I wanted to really clarify it and make it sound super fancy and put that on my CV, it's like, how many people would you know say, oh yeah, I've built diamond drills?
Absolutely,
what the fuck have you done with your life?
Exactly.
So I've made tools that are harder than anything and anyone you know. Fight me, I will slap them silly with a diamond drill. Fight them in the left toe.
Well, I mean, we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah.
Have you said anything?
I've said everything that covers the basics of my job. So there's a lot of nifty little details. That's it. If people really want to know like the more in depth, I'll get some diagrams. I'll bring in some job cards from jobs that that are stuck miles down the line.
Yeah, you're coming back on, and we're going to be talking about mental health and what goes on in your brain.
Yeah, to a little more of a more serious topic and a bit more of a crazy one.
It's probably going to be episode 5 or 6. So stick in, subscribe, otherwise you miss it.
Yeah, you get to step into the world of a crazy person.
Absolutely.
That hasn't been locked up just yet.
It's going to be. I'm hoping it'll be an insight into the world of mental health and what people have to deal with day in, day out. So I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I certainly have. And, you know, go and create something amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like this video. It really fucking helps. I love all of you. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Calum Golding, everyone. Thank you very much.